So this part of the video is going to be dark and a bit controversial, so if you don't like dark and controversial topics, what is up guys, today is Wednesday, which means hashtag Book Wednesday, and day of the week where I talk to you guys about books. And the book I'm talking about today is Carve by Veronica Roth, the author of the Divergent trilogy, a trilogy that I actually quite liked, and the mess of the actual film. Such a good book series, and yet again they made a terrible film. Anyway, so this book is Carve. This is Veronica Roth's new series. This is a sci-fi series and it's been deemed to be Star Wars meets X-Men. I'm not a big fan of Star Wars. I'm a huge fan of the X-Men, so naturally when something is referred to the X-Men, I get very, what's the word I'm looking for? I get very skeptical of people when they refer books to the likes of X-Men, because it's been done so many times and people just seem to grip on this thing and I don't understand why. But then they refer to Star Wars. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but this is set in space, so we have space and X-Men, so we have spacemen. Huh, that kind of works. But no, seriously, this book follows Syra, Novak and Akos Karasat on their adventure. And the story evolves around both Syra and Akos, and their fates have been intertwined to one another. Now, I genuinely like this story and I enjoyed certain elements of the story as well. I actually really liked the relationship between Akos and Syra. I think it was nicely written and it was kind of like nicely developed, and I'm looking forward to seeing it develop a little bit more in detail in the next book. And there's obviously things I don't like about the book. Like, I don't like the relationship between Akos and his brother Aja. Aja is 2 years older than Akos, so at the beginning of the book we have our both main characters, Syra and Akos, are both from two different planets, two different cultures, and totally different types of people. Syra is the youngest daughter of the rulers of Chauvet, and she's the youngest sibling of her brother, whose name I can't remember. And we have Akos, who is the youngest of the Carvettes. And he is pretty badass, I have to say from the get-go. He is 14 and so is Syra. And why I don't like the relation between him and his brother is because his brother seems to be very much a pushover and Akos is very much a headstrong kind of, really kind of, I'm going to get in your face, I'm going to kick the living bananas out of you if you hurt me or my family. And I kind of admire that as well, but his relationship with his brother is a bit weird. The reason why I say this, he loves his brother, that's not the weird part about it. What I actually find weird about this is that at the point of a book where this book really kind of takes place, is that he goes to defend his brother and protect his brother rather than his brother protect him. And it's kind of interesting to see that kind of different dynamic. Me personally being a sibling and the youngest of my family, I at 14 would expect my brother, who's only 2 years older than me as well, at 16 would have been the one protecting me rather than me protecting him. And I kind of found that a bit weird, and the focus of Akos is to protect his brother, make sure his brother's okay, when really his brother should be able to look after himself. Now, the book does jump, I think, 2 to 3 years from the beginning, where we start off at 14 and then our main characters are then about 16, 17, and kind of by the end of the book I'm assuming they're about 17, 18. It's a really, really interesting book. There's certain elements in it. When it's referred to Star Wars, it's because it's set in space, so we have different planets and we have different regions, different types of people, and different worlds, different types of, I suppose, backgrounds for people. So there's the Chauvettes are kind of deemed to be, said to be kind of the brutal war type people. The Fuvas are supposed to be, or the Fuvaseats, I think that's what they pronounce them as, are then to be the peacekeepers, kind of like gentle giants kind of thing. And then of course we have like other worlds and that we're not really introduced to too much into. But it's interesting to see how it's going to play out. Overall, I really did actually enjoy the book itself, and I just really liked how the relationship between our two main protagonists develop. I really like how the story develops around them and how they all come into their own kind of individual, in a sense, in their own individual way, and also how they become kind of like the it couple, if you want to put it that way. And I just really like how Sayra's character is developed, how she's gone through so much and goes through so much, but yet again at the same time her heart's in the right place, and she's learning to care and to be compassionate through the help of Akos, and Akos learning how to be brave and fight and to stand up to other things. And generally I just really enjoyed it. I gave it a 3 out of 4. I think I gave it 3 or 4 stars, I can't really remember. And the reason why I knocked it down a couple of stars is because I just didn't find it to be original. There's a lot of stories out there that are very similar to this, and because of that it's very hard to kind of see the originality in it. But I really did like the idea that it was set in space and that it had the kind of X-Men feel to it, and I like the characters more so than anything else. Now I can't say that the characters are two-dimensional, the characters seem to be very one-dimensional, but I still like them in a sense. But again, I'm not very good at reviews, but yeah, on that note I'm going to go off onto the darker side of things. So this part of the video is going to be dark and a bit controversial, so if you don't like dark and controversial topics, I advise you to like and subscribe to me right now. If not, continue watching me, because what I'm about to say is stuff that I believe doesn't belong in the book, and are stuff that I didn't see in the book at all, and it's just my opinion on this matter, and I'm going to obviously ask your opinions as well. So recently I was looking up for information for my own writing for my review of Carve by Veronica Roth, and while researching I was going through some reviews to see if people had the same opinion about the book as what I did, or was there points I liked that people disliked, and could I use it in my review in order to get my point across. And then I came across 2 reviews that gave this book a 1 star. Both these book reviewers talk about racism, and one of these reviewers spoke about rape. Now personally I can't remember in the book where it states the skin colour of the characters or their language sounding and stuff about their people of the planet in general. If I could remember where I read it, I could give the page numbers and read exactly what it states. But I do know that for description of Sayra, she was giving Veronica Roth gave her a light brown skin colour to me, which means that she possibly could be mixed race. And the description she gave about the people of Shotet was that they had a very harsh sounding language and that they could be quite brutal people and violent people. Whereas Akos Nation Fua, they're soft-spoken, peacekeeping people, and she describes Akos as being pale. Now you can only assume when she's referring to Akos as pale is that he's white, which, you know, could be very possible given the consequences of Fua itself being a nice planet, so there isn't probably much sun, so, you know, colour is not really a thing that they probably get used to anyway. I'm trying to see where these individuals saw racism in the actual story itself, and I'm kind of failing to see where the racism is. And while I was thinking over this video, I started to think maybe these actual reviewers might actually be the ones that are causing the racism or seeing the racism themselves, because they're comparing the description given in this book for the Shotet and comparing it to some other country. I honestly don't believe there's much racism in this book. There is points where we see that the Shotet people are mocking and jeering Akos for his pale, thin skin, but this is just to get him boiled up and angry so he attacks, to wants to fight. And it's just one of these things where I personally, I don't see racism in the story. I don't see where it belongs in the story. And it certainly doesn't play any part within the actual story other than in the description of early on for Akos and for Syra. I personally don't see how 2 or 3 lines of text could cause offence to someone who clearly doesn't know what racism is. I could be wrong in saying that this person doesn't know what racism is. Maybe they've dealt with racism themselves and they're seeing this as being offensive. Maybe that could be very much the case. But I personally don't see how 3 to 4 lines of text of giving a character description could be racist. And that's going for both these individuals on their review on racism, because they very much cover the same points. Now, the second individual went about talking about rape, and I'm thankful that there's someone on Goodreads that pulled her on this and informed her that of what rape actually is, because in the story itself it has a moment where Syra is telling something that how her current guilt manifested. And it was from the moment when her brother came into her room. Her brother, whose name is actually slipping my mind, has the ability to transfer one of his memories and take someone else's memory. So he's basically, after witnessing something that either he didn't want to witness or he was forced to do something by his father, and he wants to get rid of that memory as quickly as possible, and his victim will be Syra. So he enters her room and places his hands on her face and begins to transfer his memory to her and take one of her good memories. And this is where this individual is calling rape. I don't know about you guys, but my dictionary reference of the word rape is not placing hands on someone's face and transferring a memory. It's true sexual intercourse, whether it's due to penetration of the vagina, anus or mouth, with or without someone's consent. But I suppose where I can see where this individual is coming from when they're talking about rape is the fact that Syra is a lot younger than her brother. She's not able to fight him off. He's doing it forcefully on her. And I can get where she's coming from when she talks about rape, but this isn't necessarily rape at all, because it's not sexual. Like, it wasn't rape. I mean, this person made me kind of sit there kind of going like, what, do you even understand what rape is? Do you understand what you're saying? And how much you're tarnishing a story is for misinterpreting a point in a story, and how much you tarnish a book and their author for this. And it kind of really questioned me, it made me really question it, and it kind of annoyed me to that point. But I'm happy that to see that there's comments there where an individual on Goodreads pulled this person on this after reading the story themselves and very, very quickly state this wasn't rape, this is a definition of rape. So yeah, it's been kind of an interesting way of doing something, and it kind of really blew my mind that like these two individuals focused on something so small in the story when it comes to racism. Like, you're only talking 3-4 lines of text on a description of individuals and calling racism on it. And again, we have an individual calling for about rape, when personally rape for me, dictionary definition of it, is not anything that was described in the book. And yeah, I'm just amazed that there's like people out there that kind of wrongly review books and tarnish books on these things because they either misinterpreted it or they read too much into it. Again, as I said, when it came to the racism side of things, I question these two individuals about racism because they're the ones seem to be comparing them to other countries rather than just to look at it as a book, but they're actually taking that description from the book and placing it in another country, to another region, to another person's culture. So they're the ones that are, to me, are being the ones being racist. Anyway, as I said, this was kind of a dark, controversial topic. If you have any opinion on the matter yourself and you want to have your say, and have read the book, I do advise anyone before commenting on this to have please read the book before you do, and comment down below and let me know. I do definitely recommend people reading this book, and if you want to have a discussion about this book, I'm more than willing to have a discussion about whether you believe there's racism or if there's rape in it, or any other flaws, because there are plenty of flaws in the story as well. But yeah, definitely check this book out. Don't read reviews before you read a book. Always read a book and make up your own opinion before reading reviews and before listening to other people. But yeah, I definitely recommend this book to anyone. I did give it a 3 or 4 star review, and yeah,